Welcome to Thrive, a Paychex business podcast, your blueprint for navigating everything from people to policies to profits. And now, your host, Gene Marks.
Everybody, I'm here with Jeremy Wortman, who's the owner of HRD Initiatives. First of all, Jeremy, tell me a little bit about what you do and what HRD is.
Yeah, so I'm an organizational psychologist by training, and I focus on the public accounting world, specifically in talent management, organizational culture. So I'm passionate about helping business leaders be more intentional and strategic about how they hire people and the employee experience they bring and how they retain them.
All right, that is great. Tell me a little bit about that. I mean, hiring and retainage is a huge issue in the CPA profession. Talk to me a little bit about why it's an issue and where you think that's going.
Yeah, so I think it's such an issue because the paradigm shift that I've witnessed with the accounting profession, working with them in over 20 years, is, there are a bunch of technical professionals that back in the day, got a degree, rented some space, started pumping out work.
Yeah.
Well, as they started growing, they started to actually have to hire folks.
Sure.
And build a business. And the old school paradigm is butts in seats, get work out the door. Now they're actually running a business, and they have to think about, wow, what do we have to do to entice somebody to work for us versus anyone else? Because the war for talent is huge, right? And then, again, and I've literally had partners tell me this, Jeremy, I've taken every class I needed to take to be a great technical accountant.
Yeah.
I've never taken a class on how to be a great leader.
Yeah.
So retaining talent is huge because people want to work for good leaders,
sure,
good bosses. They want to have a meaningful experience, and so that's why culture is so important.
So, what do you tell your clients to do? I mean, my son actually is a manager at PwC.
Okay,
and he's a 30-year-old guy, and there's like 4 or 5 generations of people in this workplace, and even people of his generation, I think he's officially a millennial. I mean, he gets frustrated by Gen Zs, you know what I mean? And then the Gen Xs get frustrated with him, and the baby boomers are frustrated with the Gen X, So, what advice do you give to your clients to retain good people and find good people?
That's actually what my session was on 2 hours ago. That's what I spoke for an hour
Give
and
us
15
the highlights.
minutes. And it's funny, real quick about generations. I
Sure.
get asked to speak on that every once in a while. Every time a new generation enters the workforce, Time Magazine does this whole front page episode. And what's interesting is...
It's funny, you're right, because this goes back decades. I remember when I was a kid, they were doing stories on that.
And each generation says almost the same thing about the generation before.
Yes,
they're lazy,
yes.
they don't care, they don't want to work. So I think that's comical.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so, my best clients, what they do to attract and retain is they really do make culture a strategic priority. And I ask them to adopt a talent-centric mentality.
Good.
That is, every single person in your company has talent. Agree or disagree? And the entire audience today raised their hand. I agree that. And if we embrace that and help our employees understand what those talents are and how they can bring them to work, they have such a better, meaningful work experience. And so that attracts people because, there's some data points I shared with my group today. People are leaving because of bad bosses. They don't feel like they belong, and they feel like the company doesn't care about them. Yeah. Therefore, strategically focusing on culture pays dividends to attract and retain. But as we were talking this morning, that's a longitudinal process. It takes a long time to make a big change in a company.
Right.
And we're all so short-term focused that I see a lot of firms give up on it because they don't see the change in a short period of time. So that's my thing. That's what I do with firms is really understand how you can create an awesome culture, operationalize it, and then create the supporting talent management strategy that brings it alive.
It's funny. I have some clients that I know their employees are being paid less. They could get better jobs. They could get more highly compensated jobs, and yet they have little turnover.
Yep.
And it's almost like if you're going to spend 8 or 10 hours a day at work, it's kind of like the work itself is almost secondary to just enjoying being at the company,
right,
and who you're working with.
And
right?
There's research that supports that. There's people are willing to take less money if they're fully engaged. And those engaged employees, through all of these other tactics, they work harder for you because they want to, not because they have to. They produce higher quality work, and they're less tempted to answer that recruiter's phone call.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's talk about technology. Okay. So how has that evolved in the space of HR and CPA firms and recruiting and managing? Like tell me what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so obviously changing all the time, causing a lot of confusion. People are very concerned about the privacy and stuff, so I won't go any further than that because I don't know that much about it. But what I'm seeing from a human resources perspective is upskilling, like changing, like teaching their people how to embrace the technology and how to leverage it. I was fascinated. I learned a statistic recently that if you productively apply AI to your business over a 3-year time period, you should be able to increase operational efficiency by 30%.
That's amazing.
So that's going to free up a lot of people to do other things.
But people are scared about losing their jobs to AI. Do you think that's
I think it's a myth. It's a myth, right? It's just a tool. It's like the internet. It's just going to help us do our jobs better and more efficiently. And so the big paradigm shift that I'm working with a few of my clients on right now is going from technician to advisory.
Yeah.
Right, and really getting those skills down. They still have to know the technical stuff, but AI is driving them to be more client service related, learning those people call them soft skills. I hate that because that implies weak. I call them essential skills.
Right.
So I see that's where I've seen AI pushing my clients.
Yeah, it's funny. So much of the work that people are doing is like mundane, boring, like not challenging, and it kind of sucks, and that's what drives people away from their jobs because they're bored of and you think like if AI can do a lot of that stuff, it creates a better balance for them, doesn't it?
Absolutely. More value add in their job by building and maintaining those relationships with their clients, which is where, because the work that's being done in this field, and I've had tons of partners and managing partners support this, more and more what they're doing is commoditized, right? Yep. And so when I ask these leaders, like, how do you differentiate yourself? Like, why should somebody choose your firm to do business with versus another one? They always say it's based on client service.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yeah, it's people seem to forget that the clients don't see any value in paying you to be doing tax work or grunt work or bookkeeping work. If AI is able to do that for you, it just provides a better experience. Give me some of your thoughts, Jeremy, on we're still on technology, like recruiting technology. It's controversial because it could be biased. I mean, do you see a role for using AI or recruiting platforms for a company?
Yeah, I need to investigate this a little bit more, but I think there's going to be AI that's going to help get through some of the mundane type of stuff that the recruiters are out there herding cats.
Sure.
When I help firms hire, I'm very passionate about talent and culture fit, even more so than technical fit. And there are good psychometrically validated assessments that we use with my clients to help assess for that fit. And AI is not going to be able to do that because there's too many guidelines from the American Psychological Association, the EEOC, PSYOP, where you can't do that with AI. You still need somebody to understand the statistics and the ethical application of it. Maybe someday it gets there, but I don't see it anytime soon because that's something I've been investigating a lot. Like, how am I going to help clients use science to better select their people?
Good. Performance reviews. And we'll get, I have other questions on this, but this is it's a hot area. I keep telling my clients, Jeremy, like, if you're still doing an annual performance review, it's like 1985 called and wants you back. Give us your thoughts on how a CPA firm
right now.
Yeah, I mean, tell me how you should be doing performance reviews in 2025.
Get rid of them.
Get rid of them entirely.
I'm tired of the old school performance review. Here's why. My managers hate doing them because they're over-engineered. They take too long. Employees hate going to those conversations because they've literally said this to me. I feel like I'm going to the principal's office. Now, I understand performance needs to be evaluated, so I've actually worked with a bunch of clients on implementing a more continuous feedback framework. Why should you wait 6 months, 12 months to find out how you're doing? Right? So we have this process called 6x3. It's 6 questions 3 times a year. And all the case studies that we've done around it, it actually promotes engagement because it's just not backwards looking. It's also forwards looking. We incorporate professional growth and development in there. And that one, that people have said they've gotten a lot more engagement and bang for their buck out of those efforts.
So, I mean, and also, I think it's also just it's a demographic thing as well. I mean, generations are expecting, I mean, particularly younger generations, they're expecting like immediate feedback on different things. Yeah, and they've grown up on that.
Absolutely. And I speak on this topic at conferences too. Long story short, people want feedback.
Yeah.
Everybody does. And it's the meanest form of management not to give it to them, and then 6 months, 12 months down the road, say you're fired because
Yeah.
you weren't any good. Well, I put that on the manager.
I agree. I mean, it's nobody likes surprises either. And I think about that with my own clients. Like, I want to know right away if there's a problem.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't want to find out 6 months later that you fired
Agree.
us because you went to somebody else because you were unhappy with our services,
Exactly.
right?
I agree.
Okay. All right, we're here. This is the Engage conference for the AICPA. Obviously, there's CPAs all over the place. People running firms. You speak a lot to this profession. Talk to me about the future of this profession because it is all about talent.
All about it.
What do you think the great firms of the future will be doing to be successful?
I'm seeing more and more firms do this, actually creating true business strategies.
Okay.
Right? Sometimes I'll go into a firm and I'm asked if they have a strategy. They say yes, and they give it to me. It's really a 1-year to-do list. We need a more longer run roadmap. Because today in tomorrow's workforce, again, going back to those earlier data points I talked about, they want to know why this company exists,
Sure.
and what it's trying to accomplish, and how do I contribute. So I think firms who are going to be more intentional and sincere about the superordinate goals of their firm, mission, vision, and core values. And some people think that soft, fluffy, propagandic stuff, but the best leaders and best organizations, those are incredibly important assets, especially for the future workforce.
Right.
Second is they have to adopt a talent management, a talent-centric mentality. Because, again, everybody has talent and they want to bring those. So the firms that are going to do that in the long run are totally going to win. The other thing is you got to teach managers how to be leaders. Again, looking back to why are people leaving? Bad bosses, right? And we need to bring that leadership potential out in everyone. And the good news is it can be taught.
Sure.
The other thing is emotional intelligence. Because I was doing some research a year or so ago for another client, like what's leadership like in 30-30. The good news is that a lot of what we're teaching today and has been proven in the past through science is going to be even more important in the future. And the number one thing you said is empathy. Having that empathetic mindset when you're working with your talent and really having that growth mindset. In fact, I recently got a client in Dallas. I love him because he's like, I'm in the business of growing and developing talent. We just happen to do accounting.
Right.
Love
Right.
that mindset.
Yes, of
They're
course.
going to win.
Of course.
Because those employees that are in that type of an environment are going to serve the heck out of the client.
Got it. All right, let me throw, by the way, great answers. I'm going to throw out some current employment discussion points. I'm curious to get your point of view on some of these
Alrighty.
things. Talk to me about work from home. Should CPA firms have a work? Should they have a required mandate to return to the office? What do you think works? What are your thoughts on work from home?
I think you're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't in this topic. If you're going to compete for good talent, you're going to have some sort of flexibility,
Good.
remote option. Remote 100%. I'm working with this on a few of my clients now. And there's a consistent agreement there. To learn and grow in this profession, you got to be in the office.
Sure.
So I think there does need to be some mandated number of days in the office. Having the flexibility, to do some of your personal life, I'm on board for. But you got to have some in-person stuff.
Okay, good. Unlimited paid time off. Support or not?
I am on the fence on this one because the research shows.
By the way, I love throwing you these curveballs. Keep
I
going.
love it, man. The research shows when you implement those, you actually take less time off.
It
And
does.
that's not healthy.
Like as much as 15% less time off. That's a mental health issue.
It's a big mental health issue.
Right.
And so I don't like them.
Okay.
I'm not against them, but I'm more of the here's your set time.
Yep.
Use it appropriately, especially if they have a flex work schedule type of thing.
Okay. Fair enough. Speaking of mental health, talk to me about the importance of this. Again, we get back to generations.
Yep.
I'm a 60-year-old guy. People my age sometimes don't get the importance of mental health, or we don't
Yeah.
understand it. And people that are 35 years younger than me, it is out and talked about. Give me your thoughts on it.
Yeah, 100%. I've always been on board with mental health. I think everybody should have somebody to talk to because a lot of people associate mental health with mental illness. That's not true. It's also mental health, mental wellness. And so I think it needs to be a priority for
Okay.
organizations. That's going to help with the burnout, the stress management. All the research shows that psychological safety, which is a part of this mental health, it needs to be there so that people can feel comfortable being them true selves at work.
Okay. Two more questions and I'll let you go.
Okay.
You're just great. When you come across and you work with firms, and it can be CPA firms or not, because we're all businesses and we're all business
Sure.
owners. What do you find is the biggest challenge? Like, what do you find is the most common thing that the owners of these firms are not doing when it comes to their employees?
Investing in their development.
Okay.
Taking them for granted.
That's a great answer.
In fact, I shared today the employee value proposition is so important. And I did a compare and contrast. The old school mentality around the EVP is they should be happy they have a job and they're getting a paycheck.
It's the Don Draper, attitude, right? You see that clip on YouTube, right?
Yep.
That's what you get paid for, right? Yeah.
The new school mentality is I should be ecstatic they've chosen to work here, and now we need to work to keep them around.
Great advice. Final question. If you could go back to your earlier self and give yourself advice 20 years ago, 25 years ago, before you started out in your career, what would you tell yourself?
I did this, but I would still tell myself this again. Emotional intelligence is the sine qua non. It's the most important thing that separates the best from the average. So learning that and the 5 competencies associated with it is going to make you thrive. The other thing is be passionate about what you do. I love what I do. I can't believe I get to do this every single day. So, in fact, I serendipitously found this field of IO psychology. I'm like, you can use psychology, and God bless clinical psychologists because I can't do that. But you get to use psychology and tools to help people be their best, companies be their best, and I get paid for it. Unbelievable. Loved it. And probably the last thing is hire an assistant. My clients tell me that all the time.
You're doing too much stupid work, right? You could provide a lot more value if you had somebody doing stuff helping you out.
Yep.
Fair enough. Jeremy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great
this
conversation.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you would like to hear on Thrive? Please let us know. Visit payx.me/Thrive Topics and send us your ideas or matters of interest. Also, if your business is looking to simplify your HR, payroll, benefits, or insurance services, see how Paychex can help. Visit the resource hub at paychex.com/works. That's WORX. Paychex can help manage those complexities while you focus on all the ways you want your business to thrive. I'm your host, Gene Marks, and thanks for joining us. Till next time, take care.
This podcast is property of Paychex Incorporated 2025, all rights reserved.